Today, we are going to be doing lesson 10. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait a second, I thought that last time was lesson 8. You'd be right. The only thing is, when we planned this out, lesson 9 was voting. So if you voted, you've done lesson 9. If you didn't vote, then just know I'm really disappointed in you. So there it is. Let's learn about life in the States. Class. So in lesson 10, we're going to learn about life in the States, like I said, and our focus for learning will be summarizing evidence, or rather summarizing only using text evidence and having no bias. So that means we don't need to hear your opinion. It's just what you see and observe and try to stick to the facts. And I think that you'll be great at it. So first thing that we are going to do is see how we can be successful then, and that's identify facts that show the perspectives, as in North, what they thought, and South, what they thought, because they didn't necessarily think the same thing. And then understand how labor or work was achieved in each location, as in how did they work in the North and how did they work in the South, and then we'll compare and contrast how life was different between the states. So first thing is, we'll read the articles below. So, how is life in the northern states different than life in the southern states? The North. While agriculture was the primary feature of the southern economy, the North relied more on industry. The railroad allowed for the efficient transportation of goods from one place to another. Corn and wheat could be quickly sent from farms to cities, so farmers grew more food. The inventions of the steel plow and horse-drawn reaper contributed to increased food production as well. Because of these new inventions, fewer workers were needed on farms. So, many people sought work elsewhere, such as in mills in Massachusetts, coat fields in Pennsylvania. Oh, I said coat fields? What am I doing? Coal fields, like coal. And the railroad yards of Chicago. These jobs were difficult and dangerous. Some people said the work was as bad as slave labor in the South. Whoa. Children of 10 years of age or younger worked in the mills. That would be you. You'd be working in the mills. Oh my goodness. Often for 12 hours or more. Wow. So think about that. You're doing like 2 hours of school a day. Check that. You'd be doing hard manual labor for 12 hours a day. You're welcome. Accidents in the mills were frequent with little attention given to safety. This was especially hard on children who were not as cautious when working around dangerous equipment. No comment. The South. The first African slaves arrived in America in 1619. Southern plantation owners believed slaves were childlike and ignorant and needed to be civilized. However, slaves were not treated as family members, as some plantation owners claimed. They lived in harsh conditions, received little food, and forced to work 80 hours a week in the fields. 80 hours a week. Slaves were also subjected to brutal punishments, as the following quote demonstrates. One master is known to put slaves in a barrel with nails driven into it, then roll them down a hill. Another puts salt and pepper in lash wounds and blisters them by fire, and then allows a cat to claw the sores until they bleed. Terrible. In addition, slave families were often split up. Fathers, mothers, and even children were sold to distant plantations, never to see their relatives again. Okay, so you have an opt to live in the North at this point, regardless of what that last little part said. That's not true. North, 100%. All right, here we go. Comparing, contrasting. Thus, the South was locked in a vicious cycle of maintaining its slavery system, while the North was growing rapidly because of labor-saving machinery. Like one we'll find out later. The South was tied to slavery. In the North, people looked to the West for new land. and opportunities. Going west was a way to start new lives. In the South, the economy did not support these new opportunities. Slave revolts were a constant fear, and abolitionists in the North were stirring up this restlessness. It felt like the South was sitting in a powder keg, just waiting for something drastic to happen. Powder keg like TNT, go boom. 25% of the people in the South were slave owners, and the other 75 were slaves and poor whites. All in all, life in the South was very difficult, except for the wealthy plantation families. Okay, so here's your work for today. In this lesson, we've got it divided up, North and South. Types of work that people did in the North, type they did in the South, hard labor in the North, hard labor in the South. What happened to the people doing these jobs, North and South. And there you have it. Lesson 10. Good. All right, class, that is all. Hopefully you picked up some droplets of knowledge about North versus South, some of the differences therein for people that live there, and you're ready to move on to our next lesson. And hopefully my reading of the material was helpful. Again, like always, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Peace.